Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Big shout out to LitRPG Reads and Paul Bello, fine fellow, for sending over today's topic, Mind Flayers, those iconic creatures from D&D, with a taste for brains and a knack for psychic terror. Speaking of psychic terror, anyone remember that time in our last campaign where the party got ambushed by a Mind Flayer and its posse of thralls? My poor gnome sorcerer got mind controlled and turned on the group. We barely escaped with our brains intact, literally. But today, we're going beyond our personal nightmares and really getting into what makes these creatures tick. We'll be uncovering their mysterious origins, dissecting their strange biology, exploring their intricate society, and delving into the powers that make them such formidable foes. Get ready, because this deep dive is about to get seriously mind-bending.
What's intriguing about Mind Flayers is that their origins are a puzzle, with multiple possible solutions. There are a few main theories, and each adds a layer of complexity to these creatures.
Okay, let's unpack those theories. One suggests that Mind Flayers are refugees from a fallen future empire. They traveled back in time, perhaps to escape a cataclysm, or to conquer a less advanced world.
Exactly. Imagine a civilization so advanced that it mastered space and time travel, but ultimately collapsed under its own weight. It paints a picture of a powerful but flawed species, desperate to reclaim their lost glory.
Right, a kind of cautionary tale about unchecked ambition. But then there's the far realm connection, a theory that ties Mind Flayers to a dimension where reality itself breaks down. That's a whole different level of creepy.
The far realm is a place where sanity goes to die, where even the laws of physics are malleable. If Mind Flayers originated there, it would explain their bizarre biology and their affinity for psionics, powers that would drive lesser beings mad.
So, they're not just refugees from a fallen empire. They're refugees from a realm of cosmic horror. No wonder they're so messed up. And then there's the curse theory. The idea that they were once a different species, perhaps even benevolent.
Yeah.
But were transformed into these brain-eating monstrosities as punishment for some ancient transgression.
It's a compelling theory, especially when you consider their disturbing method of reproduction. They transform other beings into Mind Flayers, forcing them to consume brains to survive. It's like a twisted cosmic irony.
Yeah. It's like their curse to perpetuate the very cycle of violence and domination that led to their downfall, a tragic fate in a horrific kind of way. So we have time travelers, extra-dimensional beings, or potentially cursed souls. Quite the lineup of origin stories. But regardless of where they came from, we know the Illithid Empire fell. What could possibly topple a civilization with such advanced technology and psychic might?
Wow. Even empires crumble. It seems their downfall was a combination of internal strife and external pressures. One factor was the rebellion of the Gith, a race they'd enslaved for generations. The Gith uprising, combined with possible divine intervention, shattered their dominion.
So, they weren't invincible after all. Even with all their power, they couldn't escape the consequences of their actions.
Exactly. The surviving Mind Flayers retreated into hiding, forming isolated colonies in the Underdark and other remote corners of the multiverse. While each colony operates independently, their ultimate goal remains the same: to rebuild their empire and reclaim their former glory.
It's a chilling thought. Scattered remnants of a fallen empire, each plotting their return to power. It's like a multiversal game of chess, with each colony making its moves in secret. But let's face it, what truly makes Mind Flayers the stuff of nightmares is their appearance. They're like something out of a fever dream, aren't they?
Their appearance is a masterpiece of biological horror. They're rubbery. Mauve skin stretches over a slender frame. Their milky eyes stare blankly into the void, and their heads pulsate with raw psychic energy.
And who could forget those 4 tentacles writhing around a lamprey-like mouth? Just the thought of those things getting anywhere near my brain sends shivers down my spine.
And that's just the beginning. Their brain-eating habit is not just about sustenance. It's a chillingly efficient method of knowledge acquisition.
Right. It's not just biting and chewing. They secrete an enzyme that softens the skull, allowing those tentacles to slip in and extract the brain. Imagine the horror of being conscious as your own thoughts and memories are ripped away.
The process is swift and precise. Within seconds, the brain is extracted, leaving the victim a hollow shell. The Mind Flayer then spends a few minutes absorbing those memories, effectively downloading the victim's entire life experience.
It's a brutal combination of physical and psychological violence, a violation of both body and mind. And it makes you wonder, why brains? Why not just go for a nice heart or liver like a normal predator?
It's about more than just sustenance. The act of consuming brains is deeply ingrained in their biology and psionic abilities.
Okay, so let's talk psionics. How exactly do these powers work? Is it magic? Science? Some weird combination of both?
Think of it as a highly developed form of psychic ability, woven into the very fabric of their being. Their brains have specialized lobes dedicated to psionics, acting like biological amplifiers for their mental powers.
So they're not just casting spells. They're channeling raw psychic energy. That explains why they're so resistant to mental attacks. Their minds are fortresses.
Exactly. And their psionic abilities aren't just for offense. They use them for communication, navigation, and even manipulating their environment.
Right. We can't forget about their hive mind. They're all connected to a central intelligence, the elder brain, which acts as a living archive and coordinator for the colony.
The elder brain is a massive, pulsating organ composed of countless preserved Mind Flayer brains. It stores the collective knowledge and experiences of generations, shaping the colony's consciousness and guiding its actions.
So, they're not mindless drones. They have individual thoughts and personalities, but they're all influenced by this shared consciousness, this ancient wellspring of knowledge and ambition.
It's a fascinating and terrifying concept. Imagine having access to the memories and experiences of thousands of individuals. The constant hum of the hive mind, whispering in your thoughts.
It's both a blessing and a curse, I imagine. Access to incredible knowledge, but at the cost of true individuality. Makes you wonder where the line blurs between self and collective. But even within this hive mind, there's a hierarchy.
Yes, and at the top of that hierarchy sits a truly remarkable creature, the Illithid.
The Illithids, those 6-tentacled, superpowered mind flayers. They're like the elite guard.
Yeah.
The brain-eating special forces.
They possess exceptional psionic abilities and a terrifying potential for growth. An Illithid can actually transform into a new elder brain, becoming the central intelligence for an entire colony.
That's a serious power move. It's like going from captain to emperor, except the throne is a giant, pulsating brain. But let's get out of those theoretical power struggles and back into something a little more tangible. The Mind Flayer's home turf. The Underdark. What's a typical Mind Flayer city like?
Imagine vast networks of tunnels and chambers, carved from the living rock, a subterranean labyrinth where organic and artificial structures blend seamlessly.
So, not your average dungeon crawl. We're talking about something grander, more intricate, more alien.
Precisely. Their cities are a testament to their intelligence and ingenuity. They blend natural caverns with meticulously engineered spaces, creating environments that are both functional and unsettlingly beautiful.
Think glowing, bioluminescent fungi, illuminating chambers filled with strange machinery, psionically charged conduits pulsing with energy, and walls that seem to breathe with a life of their own.
And within these cities, they've created self-sustaining ecosystems. Nothing goes to waste. Even deceased thralls are processed and repurposed, providing nutrients for their fungal gardens or raw materials for their bioengineering projects.
It's a chillingly efficient approach, but it makes sense. Living in a hostile environment like the Underdark forces you to make the most of every resource. Speaking of resources, let's not forget about the living larders. They keep thralls in various states of mental conditioning, ready to serve as labor, protection, or, a quick snack.
It's a grim reminder of their pragmatic approach to survival and their utter disregard for the sanctity of other life forms.
Right. Not exactly known for their compassion. But we've talked a lot about their psionic powers, in a general sense. Let's dive a little deeper. We know they can do mind control. But what else is on their psychic menu?
Mind control is just the tip of the iceberg. They can manipulate matter, creating force fields, and telekinetically flinging objects around like it's nothing. They can suppress magic, rendering even the most powerful spells useless. And some, through years of training and discipline, can even warp reality itself, creating localized distortions in the fabric of space and time.
Hold on. Reality warping. That's some Dr. Strange level stuff.
It's a testament to the sheer range of their psionic potential. But such power comes at a price. The more they use their abilities, the greater their need to feed becomes.
Right. Back to the brain buffet. So
Yeah.
it's not just a dietary quirk. It's a consequence of their powers. The more they push their limits, the more fuel they need. But let's not forget, these aren't just mindless psychic predators. They're brilliant strategists. How do they approach combat and conquest?
Mind Flayers wage war with a level of cunning and precision that would make even the most seasoned general envious. They're masters of using thralls as expendable assets, keeping themselves out of direct combat, while coordinating attacks through their psionic network.
It's like playing chess with an army of puppets, each move calculated to maximize their advantage. while minimizing their own risk.
They're also experts in psychological warfare. Imagine being bombarded with the tortured thoughts of previous victims, or suddenly seeing your allies turn on each other due to expertly crafted illusions. It's enough to break even the most hardened warrior.
That's not just scary. It's demoralizing. They attack your mind, your sanity, your very sense of reality.
And let's not forget their ability to identify and target leadership figures. They understand that disrupting command structures can be just as effective as any physical attack.
They strike at the head, both literally and figuratively. Control the leader. Control the army. It's a strategy as old as time.
Yeah.
But in their hands, it becomes something truly terrifying. So they're scary, smart,
Yeah.
and have a taste for brains. But are they content with just lurking in the Underdark, or do they have grander ambitions?
Their influence extends far beyond their subterranean domains. Through their colonies, they manipulate trade, sow political discord, and even influence surface societies, all with the aim of furthering their long-term goals.
So they're not just conquering territory, they're shaping events, pulling strings from the shadows, playing the long game.
Exactly. It's entirely possible that seemingly normal organizations, powerful merchant guilds, secretive religious orders, even political factions, could be under their control.
That's a truly unsettling thought. The idea that these seemingly benign institutions could be puppets in the hands of a hidden Mind Flayer colony.
Right.
Makes you wonder who you can trust. But their influence goes beyond direct control.
Right.
The very existence of Mind Flayers has shaped civilizations in profound ways.
Absolutely. The fear of mental domination has led to the development of defensive magic, secret societies dedicated to combating their influence, and cultural practices designed to resist mental manipulation. It's a testament to the impact they have on the multiverse.
They've become the boogeyman, the embodiment of our fear of losing control of our own minds. But that fear has also driven innovation and cultural evolution. It's like a dark, twisted version of natural selection. Adapt or be dominated. Speaking of adaptation, let's talk about their technology. These guys have living spaceships, for crying out loud.
The Nautiloids are a testament to their mastery of bioengineering and psionics. These massive, shell-shaped vessels are grown, not built, forming a symbiotic bond with their Mind Flayer crew.
It's like something out of a science fiction novel.
Right.
But even their more mundane tech is pretty mind-blowing.
Right. Their design philosophy is deeply alien, with a focus on psionic integration and multifunctionality. Even a seemingly simple tool might have hidden capabilities that would surprise and horrify anyone unfamiliar with their technology.
It's like they see the world in a completely different way than we do. Their technology is an extension of their minds, an expression of their alien worldview.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered their powers, their tech, their society, but what about their psychology? What makes them tick?
To understand a Mind Flayer, you have to abandon the notion that they think or feel like humans. They are driven by a cold, calculating rationality, a constant thirst for knowledge, and a deep-seated belief in their own superiority.
So, not exactly the warm and fuzzy type, but there's got to be more to it than just logic and ambition.
Right.
What do they want? What are they striving for?
Their ultimate goal is the restoration of their empire. They are patient, cunning, and willing to manipulate events over centuries to achieve their objectives.
So, they're playing the long game, and they're playing it well. But how do they plan to accomplish this? What are their methods?
Their tactics have evolved since the fall of their ancient empire. Brute force is rarely effective against the diverse and powerful civilizations of the multiverse, so they've adapted, embracing more subtle and insidious approaches.
Intriguing. This is where it gets really interesting. Tell me more about their strategy.
They establish hidden colonies in strategic locations, gradually extending their influence through carefully placed agents and dominated pawns. They might manipulate trade routes, sow discord among rival factions, or even support the rise of seemingly benevolent leaders who are, in reality, nothing more than puppets dancing to the tune of a hidden elder brain.
So, it's less about conquering armies and more about pulling strings from the shadows. A bit more cloak and dagger, a bit more mind games.
Precisely. They understand that true power lies in control. Control of information, control of resources, and ultimately, control of minds. They're not just trying to conquer territory, they're trying to reshape the very fabric of civilization, bending it to their will over generations.
That's a chillingly effective strategy, preying on the weaknesses and ambitions of others.
Yeah.
But it's not just about manipulating existing power structures, is it? They're also experimenting with new approaches, new ways to gain control.
Indeed. Some colonies have begun experimenting with seemingly benevolent methods. They might offer technological advancements, provide aid to struggling communities, or even present themselves as spiritual guides, offering enlightenment and psionic empowerment in exchange for loyalty.
So it's a bait and switch.
Mm-hmm.
Offer something appealing, gain trust, and slowly tighten the grip of control.
It's a chillingly effective strategy, preying on hope, desperation, and the inherent desire for something more. They understand that dependence can be just as powerful a weapon as any psionic blast.
It's a reminder that the greatest threats often come disguised as opportunities, and that even the most benevolent facade can conceal a sinister agenda.
Wow. This is a lot to process. We've covered a lot of ground already.
Before we move on, let's recap what we've learned so far about these fascinating, if terrifying, creatures.
We've explored their mysterious origins, dissected their strange biology, and delved into the complexities of their society and psionic abilities. We've also uncovered their cunning strategies and their unsettling influence on the multiverse.
It's a lot to take in, and there's still so much more to explore. Join us in part 2 of our Mind Flayer deep dive, where we'll delve deeper into their methods of control, their bizarre technology, and the horrifying process by which they create new members of their species. Until then, keep your mind sharp, your tinfoil hats handy, and maybe double-check who's really calling the shots in your local government. You never know what kind of influence might be lurking beneath the surface. Creepy thought to end on. But hey, that's the Mind Flayers for you, always leaving you with that lingering sense of unease. See you in part 2. Welcome back, adventurers. Ready to plunge back into the depths of Mind Flayer weirdness? Last time, we navigated the basics. Origins, biology, those creepy tentacles, the good stuff. But today, we're cranking things up a notch, exploring the tech, the truly disturbing reproduction, and the psychology that makes these creatures the ultimate nightmare fuel.
We're going beyond the surface, getting into those specifics that really set Mind Flayers apart.
So let's start with something a bit less.
Wow.
Squicky. Their tech. We know they've got living spaceships, which is amazing. But what about their everyday stuff? What kind of gadgets do they have lying around in those subterranean workshops?
Mind Flayer tech is where the organic and the artificial get seriously blurry. It's all powered by a mastery of bioengineering, and of course, psionics.
Right, so not your average circuit boards and wires.
Definitely not. Picture memory crystals that store information psionically, amplifiers that boost their mental powers, even biomechanical constructs that act as guardians, or laborers, or instruments of torture.
Okay, so we're talking living computers,
Yeah.
psychic power-ups,
Yeah.
and robot servants with the dark side. Sounds like they have it all. But what about weapons? Do they have any of those cool psionic death rays or something?
Well, they do have weapons, but for Mind Flayers, combat is less about brute force and more about control and manipulation. The technology reflects that.
Makes sense. Why blow something up when you can just hijack its brain and turn it against its friends? So what kind of tech are we talking about?
Imagine devices that amplify their mind blast, turning an already devastating attack into something truly lethal, or tools that allow them to target multiple minds at once, sowing confusion and chaos among their enemies.
Psychological warfare. But with gadgets, it's like they're waging war on your very sanity.
Yeah.
Okay. But aside from the weapons, what about their everyday tech? What do they use on a daily basis?
Even their everyday objects are often enhanced with psionics. They might have writing implements that can record your thoughts, communication devices that work telepathically, even furniture that adapts to your posture and mood.
Hold up. Psychic furniture, like a chair that senses you're stressed and gives you a massage. That's actually kind of awesome.
Well, Mind Flayer tech isn't usually designed for comfort. That chair might be analyzing your mental state and reporting any rebellious thoughts back to the elder brain.
Okay. Less massage chair and more interrogation chair then. Suddenly not as relaxing. But it really makes you wonder, if their everyday stuff is that advanced, what kind of crazy tech are they hiding in those secret labs?
The lure of forbidden knowledge is a strong one. But with Mind Flayers, it comes with a hefty dose of danger.
Right, like opening a Pandora's box of psionic nightmares. Okay, enough about tech for now. Let's move on to something truly disturbing. Their reproduction.
Oh, yes. Seromorphosis, a marvel of biological manipulation and a terrifying example of parasitic invasion.
You're talking about those tadpoles, right? The ones they keep in those creepy pools.
Those are the stars of the show. But these tadpoles aren't just offspring. They're the key to making more Mind Flayers. It starts when a tadpole is implanted into a host, usually a sentient creature.
Okay. Just the word implanted makes me shudder. What happens next? Does the tadpole just eat the brain?
It's not that simple. The tadpole integrates itself with the host's nervous system, gradually taking control. But here's the horrifying part. The host is conscious through a lot of this.
You're kidding. They're aware of being taken over.
Imagine feeling your thoughts and memories being rewritten, your very identity dissolving, as the tadpole asserts control.
I don't even have words. And all this is happening while the Mind Flayers are watching, documenting the process like it's some kind of science experiment.
They're constantly trying to refine the process, make it more efficient, more predictable. They view other beings as resources, raw material for their grand plans.
Okay, I need a minute to process that. This deep dive is getting pretty intense.
We've covered some disturbing stuff. Their tech, their reproduction. And it only gets weirder from here.
Bring on the weirdness. Welcome back, brave listeners, for the final descent into the world of Mind Flayers. We've journeyed through their disturbing biology, their creepy tech, and that horrifying, mind-bending reproduction process. But there's still so much more to uncover.
Today, we're going even deeper, exploring the variations within their species, the strange intersection of psionics and magic in their world, and the unique challenges of facing these creatures in a tabletop RPG setting.
So we know the standard Mind Flayer is scary enough, but are there even weirder versions out there?
Oh, absolutely. The Mind Flayer we've been discussing is just one example. Over millennia, they've diversified, both through natural evolution and deliberate experimentation.
Deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not just letting nature take its course. They're actively trying to create new types of Mind Flayers.
They're constantly seeking ways to refine and enhance their capabilities.
I guess when you're a species obsessed with control, you don't just sit back and let evolution do its thing.
Yeah, exactly. Think of it this way. If you want to dominate the multiverse, you need an army of thralls that can handle a variety of environments and challenges. So some Mind Flayer colonies have been breeding their thralls for specific traits, resistance to extreme temperatures, immunity to poisons, even the ability to channel psionic energy.
So it's like a twisted breeding program, creating customized minions for every occasion.
In a way, yes. It's a testament to their ruthlessness and their long-term planning.
It's also pretty terrifying. But what about variations among the Mind Flayers themselves?
Well, imagine Mind Flayers dwelling in perpetual darkness, evolving enhanced senses to hunt in near-total blackness, or those living in deep ocean trenches, their bodies adapted to withstand crushing pressures.
It's amazing how even a species so focused on mental power can be shaped by their environment. But you mentioned experimentation too, right?
Right. Mind Flayers aren't content to just let nature run its course. They're actively manipulating their own biology and that of others.
So like mad scientists, but with psionics and genetic engineering instead of test tubes and beakers.
Precisely. They're driven by a relentless pursuit of knowledge, always seeking to improve, to optimize, to perfect their methods of control.
It's both fascinating and disturbing. But there's one variation that's particularly intriguing, the Alhoon, also known as the Illithids. They're Mind Flayers who've embraced arcane magic.
The Alhoon are a fascinating anomaly. They break from tradition, rejecting the elder brain and embracing a different kind of power.
Wait, undead, brain-eating, spellcasting Mind Flayers, that's like a triple threat of terror.
It is a rather unsettling combination.
What would drive a Mind Flayer to become an Alhoon?
It varies. Some seek individual power, believing magic offers a path to dominance beyond the hive mind. Others crave forbidden knowledge, secrets even the elder brain would consider dangerous.
So they're rebels with a terrifyingly powerful cause. But are they still connected to the hive mind? Do they still, crave brains?
The transformation severs their connection to the elder brain, granting them true independence. However, their fundamental nature remains unchanged. They still hunger for brains, both for sustenance and for the knowledge they contain.
So even in undeath, they're still brain eaters. Some habits die hard, I guess.
Yeah.
But if they're not part of the hive mind, how do they operate? What are their goals?
Alhoon are often solitary, but they're incredibly intelligent and cunning. They might dominate powerful creatures to serve as their agents or forge alliances with those seeking their knowledge or power. Their motivations are complex, often driven by personal ambition or a thirst for forbidden knowledge.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it? That some seemingly untouchable figure of power might be a pawn in the game of an undead, brain-eating Mind Flayer sorcerer.
It's a reminder that even the most terrifying creatures can be further corrupted and twisted.
Well said. Okay, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about facing these creatures in a tabletop RPG setting. Because Mind Flayers are definitely not your average dungeon encounter, are they?
They present unique challenges for players and game masters alike. Their tactical brilliance, their psionic powers, their ability to control thralls. It can be a recipe for disaster if the players aren't prepared.
Yeah, you can't just charge in with swords swinging. You need to think strategically, anticipate their moves, and be ready for anything.
Exactly. And that can be tough when you're facing an enemy that can literally read your mind.
Right. Forget flanking maneuvers and spell combos. You're dealing with an enemy that can see your every plan, exploit your weaknesses, and turn your allies against you. Talk about a challenge.
A good game master will use those abilities to create truly memorable encounters, playing on the player's fears and forcing them to think outside the box.
It's about creating a sense of paranoia, of never knowing who to trust, of constantly being one step behind. That's what makes Mind Flayers such compelling antagonists. So as we wrap up our Mind Flayer deep dive, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
They are a force to be reckoned with, intelligent, ambitious, and utterly ruthless in their pursuit of knowledge and power. They are masters of manipulation, control, and psychological warfare, and they pose a unique threat to any world they infiltrate.
They're also a reminder that the greatest dangers often come from those who are most different from us, those who see the world through an entirely alien lens. So to our listeners, be vigilant, be prepared, and never underestimate the power of a hungry mind, especially one with tentacles. A huge thank you to Lit RPG Reads and to Paul Bello, that fine fellow, for providing the inspiration for this deep dive. It's been a wild ride through the darkest corners of the D&D multiverse, and we hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. Until next time, keep your mind sharp, your dice rolling, and remember, in the world of tabletop RPGs, anything is possible, and sometimes the most terrifying possibilities are the most fun to explore.